Welcome back to TMZ Sports. I'm Mike Babcock here with Renee Montgomery. And Renee, we have more NFL quarterback news from one guy in Patrick Mahomes who is just on the rise and getting into his prime to a guy who is hanging it up after 17 seasons in the NFL. Obviously, most of them with the then San Diego Chargers. I almost said the Padres, not a baseball player. The San Diego Chargers. Of course, we are talking about Philip Rivers. Philip announced today that at the age of 39, he is hanging up his spikes. He said, look, it's just time. A guy who fantastic numbers over the years, one of the best quarterbacks of his generation, but no more. Philip says, time to go.
You know, what I think about is I feel like there's a shift happening in the NFL where, I mean, there's the Ben Roethlisberger. He was crying for a long time on the bench after they lost. A Drew Brees, where people didn't know if him and Tom Brady would ever match up again. And now a Philip Rivers. I feel like there's a shift happening in the NFL as far as like the quarterback shift. There's the Lamar Jacksons coming up, the Patrick Mahomes coming up. There's that new young core, Deshaun Watson, who he's looking for a home right now, I think. I think there's a lot going on in the NFL, but there's just a tide shifting. So it's interesting to see, and I'm curious kind of who else is going to be leaving and what else that'll do for the new quarterbacks.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Eli Manning left the year before last. He was another guy that was part of that class. Rivers, Roethlisberger, and Manning. You're right. That older generation, now they are saying goodbye. Somehow Tom Brady is still going pretty strong.
He's still standing.
It's only a matter of time, I think, before Tom Brady retires. Now, we actually we spoke with somebody, and it's funny you bring up Drew Brees, Renee, because we spoke with a guy who also played with Drew Brees. We're talking about Shawn Merriman. Remember, was a really good linebacker, one of the best linebackers of his generation. And he played with Philip Rivers. And we talked to him about Philip retiring and his legacy going forward. And this is what Shawn had to say.
I always tell people Philip is one of my greatest teammates. And I had a lot of great teammates, but he's one of my greatest teammates because he was so damn competitive. I never played with anybody who was as competitive as Philip was. And it showed on the field. And, all the smack talk and him talking back and forth to players, I think we finally figured out that it was just him being him. Philip Rivers is a Hall of Famer. And anybody look at the numbers can tell. You would have liked that for him to have a Super Bowl or two up in there to make it official. But anybody who don't think Philip Rivers is not a Hall of Famer is just bumped their heads.
I mean, you heard it right there. When I heard Philip Rivers retired, this morning, Renee, that is what the first thing that came to my mind was, is this guy a Hall of Famer? Renee, he made 8 Pro Bowls. He threw for 63,000 yards, 421 touchdowns. So the numbers are there. No Super Bowls, not a lot of success in the playoffs. Those are going to be the knocks on Phil Rivers as
but it's always tough. It's tough because I ask this all the time, and it doesn't matter if it's basketball, football. What are the requirements when it comes to Hall of Fame? Because there's some people where I'm like, for sure they're going to be a Hall of Famer, and then they're maybe not. And then there's some of the players that they make Hall of Fame. I'm like, I could see it, but I just always wonder that, because if you just look at numbers, like you just said, the numbers you just gave, I mean, why not? I would see that's Hall of Famer numbers, but then some people think, well, if you didn't win, then are you really a Hall of Famer? So we know there's Hall of Famers that haven't won, but I always just wonder, who gets to decide that stuff?